Hi, greetings. Now I am a Viking, as you can see from the clothes I wear. But how many Viking weapons am I carrying on my body today? I'll turn around, you can have a look first of all, see if you can guess it right before I go through them with you in this short historical video. And what are you going to get from this video? Well, you're going to see a few Viking weapons, you're going to see a modern Viking go through what he's carrying. I'm not got a cloak on today and I don't have a shield, but it's going to be interesting. So let me just turn around, I'll walk down here, hope you can still hear me, and you can get a look at what I'm wearing. I'll go through my clothes first before I get into the weapons aspect. The first thing I'm wearing is some very bright red trousers. Red is a very expensive colour back in the times of the Vikings and the Anglo-Saxons, and I'm wearing some decent turn shoes made from leather with a good sole. But I can get one off and show you up close. That is what a good Viking shoe should look like. You can always tell the difference between a poor Viking shoe or an average one, which, don't get me wrong, will be okay for beginners and newbies, but a good Viking shoe will always have a good thick sole. Like you can see there's at least 2 layers of leather, and underneath these are carpet tacks that have been studded in, and you can see there's 2 there need replacing. You always have to work on these shoes and replace these. It's not easy to get out, and you can see these ones have worn away and you just got the nails left. So at some point I'm going to have to dig them out and replace them as well. And a good shoe should have a good bit of grip. This is why I like this idea. And again, you can see the wear. At some point I'm going to have to just take these off and take the nails off and replace with some new strips. But for the time being, it's okay. I don't want to touch these shoes too much because A, who made them, and the fact that B, who gave them to me, and thirdly, C, the fact that they're very nice. And if you start interfering with things too much, then you can go, too far in your meddling with your equipment and your Viking kit. So that is what a good leather shoe could look like. And like anything, these should be looked after and treated with good leather oil, every few months or just before you're going away to a Viking reenactment battle. That always makes sense to me. Oh yes, I'll put it back on my foot and we'll carry on going through the Viking clothing before we get into the weapons aspect of how many weapons I'm carrying. I've done a few of these little short videos in the shorts format of how many weapons I'm carrying. So yes. So of course I'm wearing an under tunic, you can't quite see it, you can just see the top of it there. Linen in 2 colours, orange and the kind of red. If you've seen the channel before a few times, you'll see me wearing it. I've got my posh wool tunic, and if I step back a few places, you'll see that it is embroidered. I don't think I could bring that down and show you too far. There, look, you can just see it. And then on top of that, I've got a kind of a rush style split jacket. We often used to refer to this to the Jimi Hendrix of coats of Viking gear. And it's old, it's probably 25-30 years old, and in places it's getting worn, and some of these need a bit of sewing. And it's faded as well. I think at some point I'm going to reproduce it. It's also lined in green, which is nice, where you can see the cuffs. So that's just the edge of the lining folded over. So it's been well thought about. So that's my Viking clothes I'm wearing. And I have one more item of Viking clothing, couldn't say item then, which is a Viking woolly hat. And it's just got a nice silver little brooch. It just makes a change from having some of the other normal hats. So, I'm wearing some pendants. As a Viking, you should always wear at least 1 pendant, I would say. Not too many, I'm probably going over the top with 3, but 3 is a good number. And of course this is extremely rich because I've got a lot of beads, so again, this is probably over the top. The average Viking probably would have owned 1 or 2 beads on a necklace, and that'll be enough. But in Viking culture and in Viking reenactment, people like to show off the wealth and show off what nice kit they have. And I was just trying to compete with Egil Thorsten's, the dude Egil, and his Viking Thor hammer necklace. So now we come on to the aspect of the weapons. Now the first thing you'll notice I'm wearing, now you may not say a helmet is a weapon, but I don't know, you know, you could headbutt somebody with it and that would cause a lot of damage. It may also, you know, cause some concussion to yourself if it's not well padded. And I've got this slung on my belt. After this I have a Viking sword, and this is slung on a baldric, and a baldric is just basically a leather strap that goes over your shoulder. And I like a baldric, I must say, one of my most favourite ways of wearing a sword. And definitely this sword I'm wearing here, as I step back you'll see, it is nice. I like it so it points up slightly rather than being parallel or pointing down. Pointing down is never a good thing with a sword. If you don't have some sort of tie mechanism on your sword to stop it falling out, that would happen. And luckily for this scabbard, it's very tight. And then simply I just have to adjust it by putting this leather strap up, and my sword is pointed up again. And I've also got a bolt to make sure that the sword is fastened into my body rather than just slung loose. So let's pull the sword out. This is a Paul bins. I got a few binsies, as we call them. Again, this is not a blood channel. This is just the fuller, which is there to relieve make the metal lighter and the sword lighter, but only to a certain degree. Most of the reason why it's there is during the manufacturing stage you would put that in to stretch out the metal and make the sword wider. And this is quite a nice sword in the hand. It used to belong to a training officer in the Vikings, so it's probably a sword that's been around a lot. And I do like to fight with this sword as well. And again, a good sword needs good balance. If you don't have good balance, if it don't feel right in the hand, if it feels tight in the grip or too loose in the grip, if you've got too much grip, then that's always a bad sign. I'm currently got a little blister on my hand, so it's not the most easiest thing to swing round, but I'm a man, I'll just bear with it. Yeah, so I like this sword. And again, I like the scabbard because it's a good solid, you know, foundation, and it's got a nice bone section there that I can just hang it from a belt if need be. So the next weapon, number 2 on the list, that's my first weapon, this Viking sword, is a Seaxe. And I must say, this is probably my favourite Seaxe I own. It's got one thing wrong with it: it needs an end cap making at some point, probably from some mild steel, although what I could do is make a brass cap as well and have it brass perhaps, I don't know yet. It's a job for another day, but I just love the angle of this blade. It's slightly concave there, concave, so you can just see it. And again, this is there, that's not a blood channel, that's just to make basically the Seaxe lighter. It doesn't really spread it out, that would have been done afterwards, this groove, I would have thought. Sometimes they will be manufactured during the process of making the blade to make the blade wider. And again, it's got a very nice handle. This is a Norwegian style wooden turned ash, and you can see how old this is from how polished that handle is. And I assure you now, you know, you can feel it in your hand, it will feel wonderful. It's by far the best grip I think on a Seaxe is one of those handles. Yes. I've turned quite a few of them on my wood lathe, and perhaps it's something I may demonstrate in the future. So that's a Norwegian style Seaxe, or Saxe, or Seaxe. There's no correct way of saying it. There's a number of ways you can pronounce Seaxe or Seaxe. I'll probably prefer to say Seaxe or Seaxe myself rather than Saxe. Now, that's weapon number 2. I have of course got an axe, which I nearly dropped. We'll try that again. So I do have an axe. It wanted to come out, it was too keen. So there's my axe, and again this is a very old axe I've had for some years, and slowly I'm trying to put a design of Thor going fishing. You can't quite see it yet because I've got to pencil it out more and burn it in, but it's gradually going to come along this side of the handle. Because, you know, let's face it, there you were in your long house sitting by the fireside and you're bored and you're going to get a bit of charcoal and burn, you know, draw a little sketch and get a hot little knife and you know, you would, you know, do that sort of thing to decorate your axe handles and make your kit even nicer. And got a wooden wedge which is very authentic, the best way. I mean, I think the problem with this axe is it's probably a little bit dry. You could do with a bit of moisture, a bit of linseed oil on it. And of course it's got a bit of damage from combat, so it's been around and I've used that a lot. What I like about this axe, it's great for hooking shields, but also great for hooking the shafts on spears. So that there's my third weapon. I have, of course, here in the back a spare Seaxes I'm carrying just in case, because you never know. And I'll turn around and put that back for you, and then you'll see what else I'm carrying. I have a small hammer. I was out doing some work on a post, but yet again, you could use it in desperation. And if you're poor, if that's the only thing you got on a shield, you're going to take it to battle. And I'm preparing to do a story of about Saint Dunstan and the devil, and I need a hammer. And the other thing I have is a pair of tongs. Again, it's the same story, but it does make you think from the video we did the other day about the blacksmith, if he would take out his hammer and whether he would take out a set of tongs. I'd imagine if you're going to fight with these two unique weapons and tools, I'd have your tongs in this hand to block and defend yourself and try to attack. Interesting. So that is all the weapons I'm carrying today, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you've got any suggestions for videos we can do in the future as I put these away, let me know. You know, I'd love to read your thoughts and your comments. Oh yes, and if you could do two things for us, that is to share the video. If you could share the video with your friends and your colleagues and your loved ones and your family, that's great. And anybody you know who's into Vikings or history, because the more we share, the more the channel will grow. And the second thing is, like the video. It's very important that you smash that like button, because that tells YouTube that yes, this video's liked and it's popular, and they'll share it more, and then I and we on Northworthy Sagas and Stories will reach a much wider and larger audience. Oh yes, I suppose you could use a show as a weapon if you was desperate. And I had a very interesting comment before I do go the other day when I was one of those short videos formats where I was asking the question of how many weapons I was carrying, and I was wearing a cloak. And somebody very cleverly reminded me that the cloak pin is also a weapon. A weapon that you'd use in a situation where you've been captured and you've got no weapons on you, but you've got a cloak pin. Well, you could stab somebody with that and make your escape and save yourself from being killed or thrown into a pit of wolves or adders, or being ransomed off for a large bag of coin. You know, oh yes. Interesting and fascinating. Now I'm going this way now because I've got an axe down there I need to go and get. So goodbye. Goodbye. As I'm going this way. Oh yeah. I hope you like that.